Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod Hector, and it is the return of Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm good. How was your week away? You got to spend time with your son?
I never wanted him to do anything with basketball, and certainly didn't. I want him to coach, but there was a time where he was in our suite, and I was breaking down clips, and he was on the couch breaking down film for the potential
Mm-hmm.
opponent they had, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought, yeah, this is kind of interesting. Because we were doing the same thing.
It's a family business.
Um, he's a sweet boy. He's just a good son. He got up at we said goodbye to him on Thursday night. He's like, "What? I'm going to see you guys tomorrow morning for your flight." I said, "Son, we have an 8 o'clock flight,
Mm-hmm.
so we're out of here at 6:15 to get to Uber on the Uber car." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll meet you in the elevators." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So I didn't think about it much. And at 6:15, we come down the elevators, and he's right there waiting for us. So just to say goodbye, yeah, he's a really good boy, and it's great seeing him. Yeah. Vegas Thanksgiving is fine. It was busier than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Way better draw than going in the summer.
Well,
Between
I
Summer
mean,
League and 115 degrees. It was 60s and weather was gorgeous. And we ate lots of Asian food.
Okay.
Vegas is great for that. Yeah.
And for a Florida guy like yourself, it's probably nice to get some 60s and
Oh,
not
it's
too much humidity.
42. It was 42 here this morning in Florida.
Okay.
That's not normal. But yes, the answer is yes. It was nice to get to have to wear a little jacket. I wore this jacket actually, and yeah, saw some good college basketball players and
Yeah.
saw a lot of competitive. Well, I went to 2 games and both were super competitive games. So yeah,
All right.
glad to be back.
And we'll get to some of the observations you had around those players a little bit later. The NBA, of course, kept spinning while you were away. Of course, you were in contact with your clients and
I was
talking
watching a
about
lot of games.
what they were doing.
Yeah.
I said this last week. Okay, you never apologize for who you play, right? Cleveland, their schedule for a while had been pretty soft. It was the second easiest in the league. We're like, all right, but listen, a win's a win. You don't apologize for that. Look, let's see how they do when they face some adversity. So they had played Boston, I want to say maybe 8 days ago, lost that game, and then lost 2 straight to Atlanta in those sort of mini series where you're in the same city for 3 nights. So the first time I lost 3 in a row. And I was like, okay, this is the first time the Cavaliers are facing, and I use quotes, adversity. Let's see it, because it's not real adversity, but
they just lost games.
Right. But in this context. And I said, let's see how they come out and respond. And they played Boston again last night. And yes, Boston was without Derek White and Jaylen Brown, so that matters. But again, injuries happen, and you play who you play. And Boston still, that was, that game was 1 possession with seconds to go. But Cleveland came out with a win, and I thought with a requisite amount of fight. Did anything that they did in that game, based on losing 3 straight, tell you anything about the Cavaliers?
No, but it didn't tell me nothing, and so they're good. Yeah, I thought Boston didn't play very well. I thought they played very selfishly. They played their 2-way player, Drew Peterson, 25 minutes. KP, I'm not sure that was his first game back.
No, it wasn't. He'd been back before, but it's early.
He'd been back a few games. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was particularly impressive. And yet, Boston really probably should have won the game. They really controlled it. Cleveland has a lot of fight. They have a connection that I like to see. Kind of know who they are and how they need to play. But if I'm Boston, I'm thinking, man, we suck tonight, and we almost beat them without 2 starters and with a 2-way player playing 25 minutes. So I don't think Boston's too worried, to be honest with you. They might need to be. Maybe they should be. But, yeah, I think Cleveland, their bench seems to be fiery. I thought Okoro played well. I watched the game. But Donovan's amazing.
Yeah.
But no, I think there's a gulf between them and Boston still.
Okay.
It doesn't, we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But as of now, Cleveland's got work to do.
Okay. But still, you still believe that they're still a good basketball team, as you said. Yes.
Correct. I don't think they stink. They just got lucky playing a bunch of bad teams or teams. No, I think they're really solid. I just don't think they're at Boston's level.
Right. Boston are defending champions, and we shall see how that. We talked about that all year. Like, what would they be doing? And I wondered, is Joe Mazzulla going to use the 82-game regular season as a lab of sorts, right? To try different things. Like you mentioned, he played Drew Peterson 25 minutes in a game. Let's just see what this guy can do. Like, And I wonder if that is because, coaches need something every year, right? To motivate, especially a team that's coming off a championship. How do we, so this may be his thing. Let's just see what you individual guys can do in these various situations, as opposed to the hunger of, we lost in the finals, we got to get back, and like that sort of motivation.
I think that's a very insightful way to put it. And I think that he probably is keeping some things from the public yet, meaning stuff they'll do.
Mm-hmm.
We're writing about them. I'm writing about them today.
Mm-hmm.
The teaser will be, I think, Joe, this is a joke, but you'll get the point. I think he told the team, if you throw more than one pass in possession, you're being fined. A lot of you. That's the teaser. So not a team that loves to pass the ball right now, or for that matter, drive the ball.
Right.
Makes a whole nother set of questions. And so we'll be focused on that, as well as OKC a little bit today for our article, I think maybe coming out as early as tomorrow. But no, Boston, I wouldn't call it playing with their food as much as I just don't think there's an urgency beyond let's play good basketball.
Right.
Let's show up and compete, all of that, and let's try to stay connected and not start building out some fissures. We don't want that to happen. I think that's fine. They're going to be a very serious force, I think, come postseason.
One last thing on Boston, and your son is of this generation because he's, what's Max, 23?
23, yeah.
23. So what the kids often say is that Boston is the real life version of an NBA 2K team, in that the way that they
53s a game.
Correct. And I'm wondering if Max has ever said anything to you, or even approached him about, because he plays 2K, I'm sure, or did. I mean, not so much now because he's busy. What do you think about that? Like, is that true? Is that like a 2K team? I'm just very curious what kids think about Boston.
I had never thought of that. It's a fantastic idea. We took him for my favorite bagel place out there. But one of my favorite bagel places, not in New York, is in Vegas. So we had an Uber over there, and he agreed to come with us. Oh, was that a mistake? Because his phone is a 12-minute Uber ride. It shouldn't be, but this trip is busy. Maybe a 15-minute Uber ride. And he's got his laptop with him in his lap in the front seat of the car.
And he's working.
And I'm just thinking, hey, buddy, join the fucking club, man. I'm almost 60 years into it, working all the fucking time. And he's like, God, I shouldn't have come. And we didn't tell him to come. We're happy to bring it back.
Right.
Our plan was to bring it back because I was bringing it back for some other coaches in Alabama. But so to your point, there is no time for 2K anymore now that the season's on. I think they probably played some before, but I will definitely. He and I were texting this morning. Well, he called me twice. I was on the content call with you guys, and my phone just fucking stopped ringing. And it didn't kick me off our call, which I'm glad. And I looked, but twice it was Max. I'm like, well, if he calls me, our rule is don't call Dad twice unless you're bleeding from the head.
So you're like, oh God, why is he calling twice?
Right. Well, no, I thought, Jesus, he must be bleeding from the head. But what am I supposed to do? I'm in Clearwater now. He doesn't live close. So afterwards, I said, I'm sorry. I was on our contact call. Is everything all right? He's like, yeah, I spoke to Mom. I didn't know what to do. My windows in my car, were frosted. As if I'm some kind of genius with dealing with ice on windows. Not that I wouldn't know what to do, but I'm not sure I know. I think I know. I think you just go early, turn the defrost on, and just wait a few minutes, right?
You guys have never been more clear about the fact that you're from Florida when you're asking, what do we do with frost on our window?
He would never know. Yeah, Tallahassee. He didn't have a car until we didn't have him a car until his senior year. Yeah. So he just never dealt with it because it doesn't get cold in Tallahassee. It's just a little bit south of Tuscaloosa. What do you do?
So all the newer cars, you just go in, turn it on, and defrost, and it'll defrost.
That's exactly what his mom.
Now, when you were a college kid, when younger, and you got no money, you go outside, you get your ice scraper, and you are.
Which is the other thing we said. Yeah, I called someone from Alabama who had been there, and they said the two things you just said, which is what we thought. Yeah. I remember renting a car, making sure they had an ice scraper in it.
Oh, yeah.
Do kind of shit before.
Let me tell you how you are so screwed if you do up here and you're in an older car and you don't have an ice scraper. Oh, that's just not.
Can you just boil water? Or does that fuck it up?
That probably messes it up even more. It's just like, but that's like, again, when you grow up in this part of you just know that, like, car, you get like a survival kit in your car, ice scraper, like all the things, because you're gonna need them.
I spoke to someone. I'm not to get into the report, but I spoke to someone in the Bahamas. For the big basketball. They had many basketball tournaments down there, and so one of my friends is from Canada, and his flight got delayed a day. I'm like, oh, you poor thing, you have to stick in the Bahamas another day. It's like, yeah, it's 70 something and sunny here. Right. And at home in Canada, it was, I think, -5 Celsius or some ungodly number like that. Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah, we're a little spoiled that way. So today's going to be, it's already 60. It was 42 this morning. It'll be 65 or so today. We have a nice week coming. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not even talking about Florida weather anymore. With our hurricanes, we now have the worst weather in the world. Yeah.
Well, as you know, my parents are on the eastern side of the state
Yeah.
of Florida, and my mom is so happy because she's like, "This is when the weather's perfect. It's 60 in the morning
Yeah.
when I want to go do my walks, and the highest it gets is 80." I'm like, "Yeah, great. Tell me more. Tell me more about
we
it."
won't. Well, she'll have a little warmer weather than we will. I think we're low 70s later in the week, but to me, this is why we would keep a home in Florida part time. Is this time of year?
Yeah,
it's pretty nice. But anyway, I fucking love your idea because Boston does play like let that. I think it's 49.5 threes a game.
Let it fly, baby.
Listen, let that motherfucker fly. I used to always say. I remember when it was Rockets versus Warriors era. Like for the few years it was with CP there. I remember I might have been on ESPN still thinking that boy, there'll be a game where they take 53s, meaning Houston, and they might make 20. Or there might be a game where they make 25 threes.
Right.
That's 75 points. You're not going to beat them when they do that. Well, that's how Boston plays now. That's where we've come, at least one team. Yeah. It's interesting. I'll talk to Max about it later.
Yeah, it's funny because the kids are just like, it's like 2K come to life. You're just shooting threes. And Boston quite good at shooting and quite good at getting their threes too, right? Like they're really good. Speaking of threes, the Warriors are an interesting team. We laud them for a number of reasons. Of course, the Cuisinart, which you famously call their offense. Which, by the way, and I know you know this, people, Cuisinart is the brand of food processor. The thing that spins is a food processor. That's what causes like your onion or your whatever stuff to fly all around inside and look nuts. Just so FYI, a little.
And I think Henry came up with that term, and I don't know if he quoted somebody else, but I liked it. I liked it very much. And people, Utah Jazz they called the blender, and I coined the Pacers blur ball, which is semi blur ball when Andrew Nemhard's out. Because teams are just face guarding Tyrese.
I was going to say, or Tyrese is playing and not playing well.
Yeah, but no, teams are picking him up early and denying him and face guarding him. They just can't get their pace going with someone else at the two, but Nemhard's a point guard. So he scored 45 in the first quarter, and they were flying. That looked like he hadn't played in a while, I mean, in a month. But so the Cuisinart it's the fancy brand, right? Right. So if another NBA team that had not won any championships started doing this, we would call it some other we would call it the food processor.
Food processor.
But it's the Warriors. Henry called it the
Cuisinart. I love it. One of the things that we like about them this year is their rotation is deep. They're playing 13 guys, at least 12 minutes a game. Steph and Draymond do not or nobody on the team. Forget Steph and Draymond. No one averages 30 minutes a game, which we like. But the Warriors have lost 4 straight, and people are wondering, is this 13-man rotation necessary? And I always look at it, David, from a bunch of different buckets: fans, media, coaches, right? And Steve Kerr, ultimate job security. Like I think he has a plan, right? And I'm going to assume he has a plan because he's a very good coach. Coaches do things with a plan in mind. Here's what we're trying to figure out: what are right combinations, etc. Like who are guys who are doing things that I know I can be able to trust in important spots as they continue to get minutes. Fans freak out, right? Because they're so invested in the game at that moment, right? It's like, oh my God, we're down 7. Now it's 10. Why is Steph still on the bench? Put him back in. And it's like, yeah, but it's November. It's fine. Like you're okay. And then so the question was asked to Steph after the game, what do you think about the rotations? And, is this something you should simplify, particularly when things are going the way they are right now, which is, again, as I mentioned, loses a 4 straight. He's like, when you're winning, fine, right? I don't think anybody has any issues. But when you are losing, you might want to simplify it. Is it cutting 1 or 2 guys out of the rotation? Maybe for the sake of getting guys some rhythm. And I know we here at True Hoop, we love the idea of going deep. This is the heart of your business, player development. Like, we love it for all the obvious reasons, guys you can count on. But when the team starts losing and you're going 13 deep and your stars are not playing 30 minutes or more, is there a potential for problem?
Well, sure there is. It makes me think of a couple of things. First of all, one of the best basketball years of my life was 1993-94. I was 28 and then 29 years old those years. the Gators they won 30 games in basketball. Their starting center was my high school player for 4 years. I literally started coaching when he was in 8th grade. And now he's starting center for a team that was rapidly rising the charts and the rankings. And Lon Kruger was the head coach, a real mentor to me. I was very close with their staff, went to many games with my then wife of 3 years and no kids. It was a glorious time. See, my player who left his home. His mom kind of kicked him out because he was just a big, stubborn guy, very bright, and she couldn't handle him. He didn't know his dad ever. His guardian died the year before, a couple years before that. Yeah, when he was in high school. So he was like my son, and so Jarod. So I think we went 9 deep that year. We ended up losing in the Final Four to Grand Hill, the buzzer. So I would listen to games on radio sometimes. And their subbing was so regimented that on the radio, I could hear that horn.
You knew who was coming in.
Yep. And I was almost never wrong. And I mean, almost never. And then you would hear the announcer say a few minutes later, so Svein Dirkelbone's in the game and Greg Williams in the game. These were subs we had. It really affected me. Like, oh man, it must be nice. Just when you're a sub, and when you're a starter, this is, I'm getting my rest now. Like, you just know it. You just know what's going on. I don't think it's as easy as that. You're dealing with more good players in the NBA, the longer games, all of that. But I can tell you this, there are teams that are trying to limit their players' minutes now, which we applaud. But come postseason, we know that's not going to be the case.
Correct.
So what I have suggested to some of my players that are some of the better players on their team and the best player on their team, that come All-Star break, we have that conversation, agent with coach, player with coach, depending on the situation. You need to start ramping up my minutes now so that come April 15, 16, 17, and you need me to go 36 or more, I can do it. And so what we're talking about here, that's going to be the case in Golden State too, I'm sure. I just don't think you'll play Steph Curry 28 minutes a game in the postseason.
Oh,
that's my guess.
No.
Okay. You agree. So we're talking about short term.
Yeah.
If we can all agree that at some point you're gonna play your best players more minutes, well, it makes more sense to play them less minutes now. Okay. But you can't just suddenly play them from 26 to 40 in April. So there's going to be a gradual ramp up. And so we're talking about a temporary period of time. But in this temporary period of time, 13 is still a big fat number. What I'd rather see them do is play about 10 a game with some guys platooning. Isn't that what they call in baseball?
Yep, for sure.
Travis would know.
Platooning, yep, is that what they do?
Yeah. So platoon a couple guys. And then you start comparing, because in short minutes it's hard to do much. It's just hard to do much when you're barely playing. So I think that there's going to be some adjustment when you lose. All right, let's try some different things. Right. And we're only talking about December, January, and maybe February. And then I think they'll start getting back to more regular minutes.
Yeah. And I think Kurt already said, he's like, we're doing this now. He was like, when you're in the normal part of the NBA season, it won't be like this, right? So I think he made it very clear that this is something he's experimenting with and trying. But I think it's like, again, this team was on fire. They'd only had one loss or whatever. You lose 4 straight, and Steve said it after the game. We're winning all the time. We're the greatest team ever. We lose 4 in a row. Now everybody's freaking out and losing their minds. It's like,
Well, you talked about 3 buckets. So those buckets don't exist for me.
Correct. You don't care what fans or media people think.
Well, if you had sat with me in Vegas, you would not care either. I value the importance of fans because I want my players to make a lot of money for obvious reasons, and we need fans for that. But they don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
I mean, obviously there are exceptions, of course. I don't mean every single fan, but the lion's share of fans that I've been exposed to over the years, and that includes people that recognized me when I was in Vegas and wanted to talk to me. Always, Vegas is a big basketball town, as you know. This didn't happen this time, but I've been in Vegas many times where bartenders knew who I was, whatever. They don't know what, they're at games and they're yelling and screaming. And as much as I'm rooting for my son's team,
Right.
I have to see the game objectively.
Okay, right.
That doesn't mean I do,
Right.
but I try to.
Mhm.
So if Alabama fouled a guy, I thought, okay, he fouled him. That was a good call.
Yeah.
And when people around me, because I sat with family and friends
Right.
and then just regular
no,
people.
Alabama commits no fouls. Ever.
Yeah. And I would say to a few of them, oh, they're calling every foul. I said, well, we are fouling a lot. When you club a guy with your forearm, and listen, it's a rugby, Not to say there weren't some bad calls. There always are on both sides. I don't think anyone's cheating, in my opinion.
Right.
I had some agents tell me that we're at other tournaments. Well, I went for the referees. I'm like, dude, I saw the game on TV.
Right,
The ref was bad for both teams, whatever. But I don't think Steve is paying much attention.
No.
But I do think he's paying attention to losses. Yeah. Like, okay, I read an article. Oh, that same article.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They've been starting Trace Jackson Davis over Looney. I don't know why. I
Probably
really
to see
don't
if
know
Trace
why.
is any good. And if he can't play with Steph, then...
Other than that.
Right.
Other than, okay, let's see where this guy is.
Right.
And he's just... I mean, Looney is having one of the best years of his career, and he's won 3 rings with them. 1 as a starter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that change. And which comes with its own problems. Jackson Davis is longer, although Looney's a better defender. Maybe TJD stays as the backup, maybe not, because they have Draymond Green that can play some 5.
Mm-hmm.
They put Podziemski back in the starting lineup.
Sure did.
It seems to be something they want to do. I like how Golden State's playing, to be honest with you. I think they look good.
Yeah.
And I think they're about what I thought they would be. They were better than I thought they'd be early. Now I think they're about where they're going. I think I had them at 46 wins. The same as the Clippers, who I'm not ready to. You want to talk about them?
We'll talk about
I just
them.
haven't studied them.
Okay, we'll talk about them
we
Thursday.
can mention. They're. I think they're back to looking like how I thought they might. What's their record now?
13-9. Hold on,
Yeah.
Let's see. Clippers. Yep, 13-9. And where they're doing it, the Clippers is defensively.
No Kawhi.
I was like,
yeah,
because I was like, all right, let me see what this team's got. Whatever. I'm like, oh, they're actually pretty good defensively. The metrics say, and you watch them, you're like, these guys get into you. Guard Derrick Jones Jr. Like, guys are getting into you physically. And Harden, like, we talk about him all the time on this show. He gets a lot of shit for reasons.
Whatever.
A lot of reasons I think are unfair. Some reasons fair, but mostly I think unfair. Dude is still incredible and one of the great playmakers. And, like, he's just so fucking good at basketball. By the way, he and Steph, only 2 players in NBA history to have 3,000 or more made threes. Just putting that out there.
Is that right?
Yeah. He just what was it, a week ago or so? He moved to the second place in terms of made threes in NBA history.
Someone saw a player in college play. I don't remember if it was Dylan Harper, the kid from Rutgers, who's going to be a top 3 pick, and they compared him to Harden. And I'm not critical of that because you have to project him somehow.
Somewhere, yeah.
That's almost like saying the 6'6" athlete's going to be like MJ.
Right.
Like Harden is really one of the best players of all time. Forget about winning and losing. It's a separate thing.
Right.
In terms of just pure production and efficiency.
Insane.
Holy. He's fucking amazing.
That 5-year peak in Houston was, and listen, Daryl would say things and people would be like,
right.
oh, Daryl's nuts. And I'm like, no, that Daryl was correct when he said that
he was the best player for 3 seasons.
Right. He was so fucking good. Like,
has he led the league in scoring? Yes.
Oh yeah.
I thought so.
And
led the league in assists.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say
done that?
That's gonna say
Wilt?
the people who've done that in their career is not a long list.
I think it's one of the shortest lists of all time.
Right.
I don't know what you could do.
LeBron, maybe.
I think right.
Like Harden,
it's very short.
A whole lot of people.
I mean, think about it. There's been way more people less female presidents in America.
Yes.
That's one.
Fact.
There's not many different categories. You can have a smaller number. So he still managed the game brilliantly.
Yes.
And
pick and roll master.
I thought the Clippers would still be pretty good. And yeah, like you said, Kawhi, do we even have a timetable for that yet?
No. Yeah, I don't. I just, we talked about it before. I think whatever it is chronic, and I just don't know how you ultimately solve
you're
that
not
problem.
optimistic.
No, I just don't know how you solve the problem. But finishing up on the Warriors really quick, I think, yes. So they're playing TJD because I think they want to see, to your point that I love, that I now, as I say, I crib all the time. If you can't play with Steph, then you ain't any good. So they're trying to figure out, is this kid any good? And if he's not, then they're going to probably make some decisions, right? Well, shove him to the bench or move him or whatever and get guys in who we know can play with Steph, right? So
Yeah, Portland's got some centers. Miami's got some centers.
Right.
There's teams that need backups. There's teams that have backups. We should have a convention, a backup center convention. So all of you buyers here, all of you sellers, there'll be a nice little market, and everyone will walk away happy. Yeah, that's coming.
Yeah.
Those days are coming.
For sure. All right, folks, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. All right, David, a team, mentioned the Clippers that are playing well. We'll discuss them more in depth on Thursday. But a team that, look, I will be honest, I was not high on them. I'm still not high on them, but I have to give them credit for what they're doing right now. Milwaukee Bucks, winners of 6 straight, 8 of their last 10. One of the hotter teams in the league. They are now 10-9, a game above 500. So I'm not getting excited. 10-9, come on.
Yeah.
But Giannis is playing out of this world. Dame's had some nice games in there. What are you seeing from the Milwaukee Bucks besides Giannis just being, okay, I can be the best player in the world when I want to be?
Well, it's that combination of, okay, so I'll give you a little, it won't be a quiz as much as just it's kind of a quiz. But it's more of a conceptual quiz. What do you need offensively if you've got Giannis on your team?
Shooters.
Right. So they are number 1 in percentage of points from 3, 40 something, something bigger than that. Oh, the number 1 3-point percentage in the last 6 games, which is when they're 6-0. Yeah, 6-0, 8 of 10. You said.
Yep, correct.
They're getting almost 12 points a game, more than last year. 12 points more than last year from 3. They're making almost. They're just making a big number of threes, and that opens up for a Godzilla, whatever you want to call it, a Titan. Like he's on a mission.
Yeah.
Watching him play, there's an anger about him. Yeah. He's trying to kill everybody.
He is playing very dominant basketball. Look, my thing was never about the Bucks that they couldn't win regular season games. Like you got Giannis on your team and Dame, like you're gonna just because you roll out with a talent advantage almost every time you step on the floor. Like so you're gonna win stuff. My point was, do I see this team winning 4 rounds in the postseason? And I still don't. I think they have too many injury concerns. I think there's a little bit of a regression from Pat Connaughton. Brooks been okay this year, but he kind of regressed last year. Like the pieces they need to ultimately go up against Boston and succeed, I just don't think they have them. Now, they could look at the situation and say, hey, but look, Indiana's struggling. Philly's a disaster, right? Like Cleveland's unproven yet in the playoffs. We're a team only 3 years off of our championship. If we get in the playoffs, hey, we can do stuff, and maybe they're right. Maybe that is all well and good. I just think that, and Middleton hasn't even played yet this year. Right. So
could be a big X factor. It will be a big X factor. Well, it should be.
Right.
All right. My stats were a little off. So they're 6th in opponents, 3 points made, which is great. They're giving up 12.5 threes a game, and they're 3rd in 3-pointers made, 16.2. So they're outscoring by nearly 12 a game. And they have Giannis on their team.
Yes.
So it's different if you're living and dying like Boston on the 3.
Right.
But they've got that guy.
Right.
And so they're killing it. They're guarding the 3. They're making the 3.
Right.
Opens it up there inside. They found. Listen, we trash talk all the time, but they've definitely been better.
They have.
And, I think you and I feel the same way that there still could be a round 1 loss. I think the East has a lot to shake out still.
Yes, for sure.
With the injuries that they've dealt with and everything else around the East and the league. We're a long way to go, but at least Milwaukee has shown a pulse, and they hadn't shown one for a while.
Yep. And another team that we will discuss later in the week, Orlando, is just playing outstanding basketball.
Major defense.
They're playing that's championship caliber defense. I watch them, and they get into your shorts when they guard. I'm like, my God, these guys, they just got to get better on offense. And look, Franz is playing well. If Paolo comes back and he's trajecting like how he was before he got hurt, that's a nice 1-2 offensive punch you got there. They got some point guard issues, and we'll talk about that later in the week. But Orlando could do something. Look, they took the Cavs to 7 games last year, so in the first round, and that was their first taste. So
that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah. So Jamal's done a great job with them. They're kind of a sleeping giant. They still have picks and young players, and they're just a real positive vibe. Mosley's really built a strong situation. Their president, Jeff Weltman's kind of stayed quiet behind the scenes and done his thing, which is I respect that very much. They've got they can move some chips in this year if they want to.
Because David,
They've been reluctant.
What impresses me about what Mosley's done, and it's similar to what Ime's done in Houston, and you know this, getting a young team to not only give a shit, but actually be not good, elite on defense, to me, I think is super hard.
Yep.
Like really difficult, more so than being like, good offensively, because everybody wants to score and do all the fun stuff and whatever, but to care about guarding and fighting over screens and like, that shit sucks. Like, let's just be honest, like it just sucks. But those guys, like, they want to do it.
I mean, I talked last year, my longtime friend, Dale Osborne. When I say longtime friend, I met him in 88. He's a Floridian. And so Dale spent 9 years with Terry Stotts in Portland with Dame and CJ. And he's supposedly a defensive coordinator. And I asked him last year, like, I don't remember you knowing defense so well. I've known him for a long time. And I was kind of kidding. But he said Jamal's just really reinforced what I'm trying to do, backed me up 100%. So he doesn't take the credit. He gives it to Jamal, which a good coordinator should do. And they've got good pieces, guys that want to defend. Suggs at the point of attack. Jonathan Isaac, who ranks, if I'm guessing, I know he ranks second in defensive EPM. I would guess Holmgren's one, but I've not looked. And he's out.
Yeah.
So right now, Isaac's the best in NBA in defense when he plays whatever number he plays. I think Bataze is a better defender than people realize at the center spot. KCP is there as the two. You know, Paolo's got potential to be a terrific defensive player.
Huge.
And watching him, you know, he's got a max deal potentially coming. They're playing better without him right now. They were neutral with him last year. Maybe that provides a little stress. But so far on the bench, just beautiful. He's just been a beautiful guy.
Yep.
All in on us and not worried about me. We've talked about this with Cleveland. Let's see how things go. I think they're 6-0 in the last 6 games. They lost every game on a road trip and been very good ever since. Yeah, we talk about the proverbial, you don't want to face them in the playoffs. It's kind of a phrase.
Yeah.
But I think it's legit for them because of their defense.
Yeah. No team likes playing teams like that.
And Franz are really talented.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know you love the fact that Jamal is able to hold them accountable, right? I mean, that's the key. Like
seems like it.
He can coach them and coach them hard and hold them accountable when they're not delivering or doing what he wants. Like, and if a head coach can't do that in a team, like, you got no shot.
I was telling you guys on a content call this morning, talking to a player on a bad team this weekend, and he said he's a veteran who said it's the worst situation he's seen in his whole career. And the very first thing when I said, well, give me more, explanation of that, he said, we just don't have anyone accountable here. Everyone does whatever the hell they want to do, and no one just says anything. I don't think that's the case in Orlando.
No.
I don't think he's he's not Red Auerbach.
Right.
He's not Bobby Knight.
Right.
Does it his own way. Jamal's a real easygoing.
Yeah.
He seems like just a delightful guy and just has a great demeanor about him. And if I was running an NBA team, I'd be looking for the next Jamal Mosley or Mark Daigneault, either one.
Or Taylor Jenkins. Well, because, David, they do what you do, which is you got to connect with these guys, man. Like, treat them like human beings. Like, shock of all shocks. Like, if you have a connection with your players, you might get good stuff out of them. I don't know. Just a thought or a theory out here. Jesus.
Just a theory.
Well, because it's such low-hanging fruit, David. It requires literally no effort on your part.
I would tell, without going into details, the story I told you guys this morning when I was talking to a couple two-way players, and they were telling me about a recent conversation they had with their coach, and I'm like, "Oh, timeout! Whoa, beep, beep!" As George Costanza would say, "Back up." What did you just say? You were talking to your head coach? And this is your OKC guys. What? Like, that doesn't happen. I think I've told the story a few times on the show, sitting with Luol Deng in his townhouse with his older brother who played at UConn when Skiles got fired and talked about how I'm going to miss Luol Deng the most. And Luol's like, man, I walked by him in a hotel. He would say hello to me. And that was in the season. In the summertime, he's like, I walked by him going to the mall and he ignored me. And they just don't talk to players. So some guys do. And there's reasons but they're not right. The right reasons.
Right.
You should be able to connect with your guys. So yeah, Orlando's got something cooking right now.
Yeah.
I need to go there more. It's just a pain in the ass to drive there. Because unlike where you live, we voted a train in that our fucking governor vetoed.
And he said, no, I mean, listen, we could use high-speed rails all over this fucking country. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Different conversation for a different day. David Wemby.
My daughter loves the MARTA in D.C.
Oh,
she uses it all the time.
Rachel got to D.C. and was like, what is this place that has mass transit that I can get where I want to go?
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she'll Uber back. She told me the other day it was 5 degrees, I think it was. And they didn't want to deal with the MARTA, so whatever. You can use my Ubers. They're still on my account. But yeah, it's great. Yeah, we don't have that here. Nothing like it.
David Wemby's in a nice little run of form right now. His last 10 games, he's averaging 32 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks a game on 54, 40, 76 shooting splits, and the Spurs are 7-3 during that time span.
Pretty good.
I'd say so. We talked about the 3-point shot improving, and we kind of saw it last year because he started the year in the teens, high teens or low 20s shooting from 3, and got up to like 32 or 33, which meant he had to get on quite a bit of a roll to get it up that high. Yeah. How putrid he was.
Yeah.
Now, I love that. We all think very highly of him. I think he's going to be excellent. And I know you and I both agree he hasn't even scratched the surface yet of what he can be offensively. Some things I'm concerned about, though, with that good form. He's taking less twos, not taking enough shots close to the rim, in my opinion. And his free throw attempts are down, and they weren't even high last year. 5.6 last year a game, I think 3 point something. Wow. Someone that big, come on, man. Like 8 to 10 times a game, you should be at the free throw line because you're just so big.
Well, if he wants to be Kristaps Porzingis, okay. Yeah, but that's not who you can be. You're better than that. That's what I would be telling him. I've not studied his game. I did speak to someone the other day who said, I texted you guys. Maybe Pop won't come back because the team's playing really well without him.
Playing very well.
We all want him healthy and all of that. But maybe he'll just be like a consultant, which would be a dream.
Oh yeah. On the travel on the road. Yeah.
The players like him. He's like your grandpa now. And I'd say that all due respect as someone who's old enough to be a grandpa now. I'm not. I'm glad I'm not, but I could be. I have classmates from college who are. Yeah. And in fact, one of the girls I was really close with, she was my cousin's roommate. She's got 2 kids. Like, oh my God. So anyway, I think that maybe this is just growth for him, the way KD initially just chucked up everything his first couple of years in the league and kind of figured stuff out. They're winning. What are they, 7-3 last 10 maybe?
Yep.
So that's good. Yeah. But I agree with you. I think that players who can score inside and out should score inside and out and shouldn't just focus on any one thing. I don't believe in the phrase take what the defense gives you unless
you hate that
you're equally effective both places. Yeah, I talked to someone today. Shai Gilgeous can do that. Did I say that to you before?
No, not much.
Okay, so Luka, Shai, Jokic, it's a small list. The world's best players can take whatever you want to give them, and it's all the same to them, more or less. That doesn't mean they won't take something that you don't want them to take if they can. But they're not going to kill themselves for it because it's all the same to them. But there's just like 7 guys like that in the world. The rest need to be a little more forceful and not just do what the defense wants, because the defense wants to do something you're not very good at. And so Wemby has the potential to be good at everything. Let him score in the paint. Okay, I'll crush you there. Take away the paint. I got second box going. Take away all the paint, including up to the 15 feet. Well, I can beat you from 3. And now if you close me out too hot, I'm shot faking, attacking, or quick attacking, go catching, back to the paint or to the rim, second box, first box. He's got that kind of upside offensively. And he's just, 19 years old? So is he 20 yet?
I think he might have just turned 20,
Yeah. So, there's no reason to think he won't continue to make progress. He's very ambitious.
And I think, part of it is, and I get it, he probably doesn't want to get beat up down there because it's physical down there, right? And I get it. Like 82 games. I think
you're exactly right.
I don't want to get beat up down there neither. Like, I got you, my guy.
I thought the same thing, is that these are gigantically strong men.
Oh my God, so big.
And he's full of bones. And so, if you ever get hit in a part where you don't have much,
Don't feel so great.
no, like shins, like that hurts and get kicked in the shin. I didn't play soccer much, but I've been kicked in the shin. That's no fun. So yeah, I think this is part of the growth process for him.
Yeah, just figuring out what's what. No, I think, and you mentioned I love first box, second box. Like he's so tall. Get that little jump hook. Get Kareem's little mini sky hook going. Like you can do these things, right? If you don't want to get all the way to the rim because you're so damn tall and long, right? Like you can.
No, 12-footer is great. KD owns that second box for many years. Yeah, even elbow is fine. Just mix it up.
Yeah,
just don't. KP spends too much time on the perimeter. Don't be KP.
Yeah,
I'd basically be. I'd probably write that over his pillow. Don't be KP. You're better than KP.
I think KP's a fine player, but you can be an all-time great. Right, yes.
Yeah, Wemby's another level. Yeah, just in terms of talent. Yeah. Well, because of KP. Yes. Because of KP and his existence, Wemby was allowed to dream big when he was younger. Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
Like he must be thinking, that guy's a unicorn. I'm a 2-horn unicorn. Yeah, 3-horn unicorn.
The rarest of the rare. You never seen anything like me.
Right.
David, we got a note from one of our True Hoop subscribers about our lack of talking about bad teams. Yet, because we talked about the Philadelphia 76ers a lot, and they're bad. So this is a subscriber who is a fan of the Portland Trailblazers, which of course is Henry Abbott's
favorite team. Are we just talking about Henry?
It wasn't Henry, but it is.
To write us a note. He gets kicked.
You could have just told us.
Yeah.
So this subscriber does want to talk a little bit about Henry, wrote an article about Toumani Camara and how he can't stop talking about him on our contact calls. I really should have texted him though and barraged him with text that night because they played the Grizzlies. I was like, I don't know about this Camara guy, Henry. He's getting scored on every time I see it. But there is, even on a bad team like Portland, there's things that you can be happy about. And things like, signs like we might have some life here. Toumani Camara might be one of those, David. Is someone who could be good.
Okay, here's the problem. Name me the guys in 4 years when they're ready for a championship, if indeed they are, who's playing for that team.
Maybe.
It's a short list.
Maybe Scoot.
Probably not, but maybe. Go on, there's a few maybes. I think Shaden Sharp's possible.
Shaden Sharp. Klingon.
Possible.
Maybe.
Absolutely possible.
How old?
Remember, they're going to have a lottery pick.
How old is Toumani right now?
24, 25.
Oh, so he's going to be 28, but okay. Well.
Yeah, that doesn't mean he won't be there. I just have no way of knowing that he will be there. We don't even know if he's that good. They're not winning games. He looks like he's a good defender. Doesn't shoot well this year. Last year he shot better. I think last year he shot much better. He can make it. But we don't know. Like, they've got lottery picks too.
They do.
And so if Anthony Simons won't be there.
No, he won't be there.
Right? And the guy you get for Anthony Simons might take the place of the players we just mentioned, as are the potential lottery picks. Sharp isn't shooting well, but he's talented. Scoot isn't shooting well, is talented. Denny Avdia is a good basketball player who's had a bad start. I don't know if he's going to be around. Yeah. So this is why I have no idea. I mean, it's like watching the Sixers back in the day when they were first starting. With Sam Hinkie.
The whole trust of tanking and getting draft picks. Yeah.
Who fucking had any idea what they were going to look like in 3 or 4 years? It turns out none of those guys were around. None of them.
Oh, who was the draft pick they had? Noel?
Yeah, Nerlens Noel.
No, yes, but then he's not in the league anymore. I don't think.
No.
Oh man.
No. Yeah, I'm not ready to. For whoever this person was, thank you for the
subscribing
letter.
And writing.
I know Detroit's got some players on their team that's going to be around in a few years,
right?
And if not, it's because they can get even more for them. Whereas Kamara's not going to get that much for him. Scoot could potentially. Scoot just is a mess of an offensive player right now.
Yeah.
Big, strong guy, can't shoot. But yeah, we just have no idea, and I don't think they even know. They just are trying to turn their draft picks into potential stars. And so far, anyway, between Sharp and Scoot and Klingon, we don't know.
Yeah.
Hasn't worked in any case. They want to be like OKC, but right now they're not. But OKC wasn't until they traded for Shea.
Yeah.
And then they have Chet, and then they have J-Dub. And so all of a sudden now, to use your phrase, which I'm allowed to use once if they're cooking with grease. Yeah. Yeah. Because those guys are max players.
So again, to the idea of if you get great players and you can't play with them, we know you can't play. So they got draft picks, they got capital, they got all that. So they do the whole Shea like trade. I don't know who the next person is who's going to be very good, but I'm sure he's out there. And that rising tide now lifts all the ships on your team. Now you know, Clingan can
That's
play.
what Shea does.
Correct.
Let me tell you something.
He is a rising tide. Oh boy. He's so
wow.
good.
Wow.
I feel
speaking of him yesterday, we talked on the show. He has that scrum with Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
It's just a loose ball. They're both grabbing it. Dylan won't let it go.
Right. Two Canadian guys going at it. Like, just, it's fine.
And I think that some players on both teams overreacted, forgetting these guys were teammates and parents.
Right.
And Canadians tend to stick together anyway. They're the second most productive country in the world for NBA players, but way behind America.
For sure.
And they're just generally good-natured guys. Not that Dylan Brooks is so on the court anyway. Off the court, I've heard people really like him.
Yeah, he's just
as it's happening live, Dylan probably wants to play for Team Canada again. Fighting Shea is not the answer to that, right? And Shea probably likes having a guy like Dylan on the team. So Shea had a great smile on his face, like this is my guy here. We did this at practice a bunch too. I'm gonna reach out to some people today that will know, including some guys that played in the game. Like, was there anything there? But yeah, Shea just is truly a special talent.
He is a force multiplier, as they call it. It's just, he is, I mean, look, he was top 5 in MVP, all NBA first. I mean, this is one of the 5 best players in the league.
He's
the
second, isn't he? Yeah, right. Isn't he number 2 now behind Jokic in EPM?
Yeah. He is
maybe last year.
He's incredible, man. Like, and wow, what? Not even like what a find by Sam. It's more just like, wow, just brilliant. Just brilliant. Like, it really, really helped them.
I love that too.
That's the cornerstone, obviously, for that team. And look, shout out to OKC. No Chet with the broken hip, and they're still playing well. We mentioned Houston last week on the show. They're in our top 5, Nakai's and I's. David and I also had them in their top 5 the week before. Listen, man, this Houston team's good. And they're
with a lot of room for growth. Ime's done a great job.
Of room for growth.
Ime's done a great job. We knew he would.
Yeah, they're a fun basketball team. And again, like Jamal, those guys compete on defense and they're good. Like, and they got a little bit of nasty streak to them. I'm curious to see, and we talked about at the beginning of the season, what happens with Jalen Green. Does he? Because there's some games where they don't close with him. And I'm like, well, because you ain't guarding. It's probably why we're not closing with you. Because
bad shot selection too. Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see how that all plays out. All right, a game I know you watched last night because you referenced it early. Indiana scored 45 points in the first quarter. Then I think to the rest of the 3, they scored 60 something or 70 maybe. Yeah. Memphis. I really, of course, already knows I'm in the tank for the Grizzlies, but I do like what I see out of this team. Their compete level, again, they are leading the NBA in points in the paint. A lot of that is on Ja Morant, but also Jaren Jackson's offensive game has really improved. Their role players, they got a rookie, Jalen Wells, who this kid just, I'm like, my guy, David always talks about players who, when you get on the floor, don't fuck things up. David, rookie, he doesn't fuck things up. Like, he's where he belongs.
He's up for Rookie of the Year.
It's amazing, right? Like, he might be the rookie on this team that is impactful as opposed to Zach Edey, who is hurt with an ankle sprain. But just what are you seeing out of Memphis right now?
I mean, they're shooting it well. They're driving it well. They're rebounding well. They're protecting the paint well. I looked up a stat. They're 3rd in percentage of threes assisted, 90.5%. So they're really playing off of each other, which is nice. I think the number 1 off. I mean, all this for the last 6 games. So these are just last 6 games, last 2 weeks. Number 1 on offense, number 7 in defense, which tells you something right there. They're 5th in passes and 5th in opponents' 3-pointers made. So you can kind of see what they're trying to do. But watching them last night, they got tagged. I mean, 45 giving up in a quarter.
And I thought they were listless on defense and didn't compete. No second efforts, nothing. They were like, whatever.
And Indiana getting Nembhard back, they were like a puppy running around in nice weather for the first time. They were just flying like they did last year, and then not after Andrew didn't play much after the first quarter. He played a little bit in second, and that was it because he had a minutes restriction. And then the Pacers warts show up because, as I told you guys, and when you're playing Johnny Furphy and Ricky Freeman or Quentin Jackson, you're just looking to lose. They're just not ready to help a team win. They'd be average at best G League players. At best, average. I think if they played the whole year, I think they eventually would. I actually like both guys, but not for the NBA right now. You're playing 5-on-4, and they are when those guys are in the game. And no, Memphis just seems really connected. Morant's not been spectacular. He's good, but I think I think Triple J's their best player right now. Yeah. And Josh seems okay with it. What do you think? Bane's not been shooting well.
Bane hasn't shooting well. I mean, Bane hasn't shot well. Ja's been in and out with some injuries. He played well last night against the Pacers, but Jaren has been there steady on both ends, defensively and offensively. And the depth. Jake LaRavia, who we mentioned last show you were on.
I'm glad about that.
They just got guys who, and again, it was by necessity. Last year when everybody was hurt, Taylor Jenkins had no choice. He had to play all these dudes who might have been in the G League. And they got valuable minutes. That magical 1,000-minute number.
Gotta play.
Yeah. And I think now when the rising tides are here, your force multipliers, look how much better we play. It's really nice to see. Yeah, so I'm encouraged what I see out of Memphis so far this season. All right, David, you were in Las Vegas watching some college basketball. I know there were a couple players that caught your eye. 2 from my alma mater. Shout out the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
I always forget you went to Rutgers. I just make the New Jersey connection. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I saw Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper Jr., the Alabama team, Houston. And then I watched the third game against Oregon. Oregon won in the finals. But this is my get off my lawn segment. Okay. And of course, it's ironic because I'm the last person who would tell him to get off my lawn. I'm more modern as an old man, I think, than what it typically used to be. But there's a concern I have watching college. This is not unique to the tournament because I watched a lot of games on TV also. We've got a situation now with NIL and everything, which I'm all for, where players are hunting shots for money. It really seems that way. And coaches are afraid to coach them up. In some cases, not all. It depends on the situation. But it makes for bad basketball, and it's disheartening to me. We see it in the NBA a little bit too, not as often. Typically, you just won't play. We see in the G League all the time. When you see someone shooting with more than 5 seconds on the clock in a crowd, I don't care where, you could be at the rim. Unless you're dunking on them, you probably should pass the ball. And we're not seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of selfish play. And it's too bad because it's not going to help them make the NBA. It's not going to help them get drafted. And they think that it is. They think that by forcing these shots, I'm helping my draft status. It's just the opposite. You're making it harder. If I'm a scout, if I'm a GM and I'm looking at you and seeing you take these shots, and I'm thinking, but you got to fit in with 2 of my all-stars and one of my all-stars and 2 of my high-level players that are being paid a lot of money, and you're doing this, they're going to fucking choke you, right? They're going to, or just never, they're going to come to the coaches, fucking don't play this guy, which is what they do. They'll just say, play him more, play him less. Well, the guy that takes bad shots, they're going to say, play him less.
Yeah.
And so it's counterproductive. And that's what the irony of it. They think that which is going to help them is actually going to hurt them. That's the irony. And we have to coach that up, and it's depressing to see because it's bad basketball.
You know, David, you mentioned hunting shots and scoring. It's because scoring is, and obviously scoring matters, right? That's the most important skill in the game, probably. The ability to score.
Yeah, outscore your opponent.
You can't win. But you mentioned GM saying, but I got 2 all-stars, you can't do this. But we know, David, there are plenty of dumb GMs who will probably still be like, well, look at that guy. Oh, he's got the temerity to take on shots. Let's put him in the game. Let's draft this guy. I think he's got something, right? I mean, there are enough guys who reward that type of behavior. It's a reward system. You won't get reward. You won't do something unless you keep getting rewarded for it, right? Or else, what? I'm not getting anything. Why am I doing this? No one values the pass, the right screen, the right cut. So is it a value system where we're not putting right emphasis on the correct things, the correct basketball play?
Yeah, I think that in most cases in the NBA, they do value it. And these guys are used to being in situations where they don't. And so they keep doing what they're doing because they think it's always going to pay them off. And then at the NBA is when it levels out like, okay, now you're done. Yeah, when you're on Cleveland, if you're trying to do a bunch of things, that means Donovan Mitchell's not doing it.
Correct.
Or Darius Garland's not doing it.
Correct.
Or Mobley's not doing it. Okay, you're out. We're just not going to play you. Yeah, and then you go to the G League or whatever. And it's a harsh reality that these guys, and in college now, because of NIL, you've got super teams.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see the mid majors we've seen before because more older, talented guys are staying in college to make more money, and so this is why they're doing it. But now they're thinking NBA, and they're just wrong. You're not going to make it, and that's when I have a chance to speak to teams. I talk about that you aren't who you think you are in this league. We were talking today. I'm not ready to do any kind of long soliloquy on him yet, but Cooper Flagg plays the most talented position in the world for the NBA. If you start looking at power forwards, it's the longest list of best players.
Right.
The 6'9", the 6'11", the 7-foot freaks as athletes, as skill. I mean, Lauren Markkanen's skill, Siakam's fadeaway skill, on the jump shots. I was just going to say, Paolo had 51 as one of his last games before he got hurt. And those guys aren't, well, did Markkanen make All-NBA last year?
Yeah, third team, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Pascal's made it twice, but Paolo's made it yet. But neither of them are considered like best player in the game because Giannis plays that position and Tatum plays that position. Right. I can go on and on.
And take out Durant and LeBron because they're old, but they're still elite, right? Like,
yeah, that's still power forwards. This is the best position we have. And so Cooper, and I don't think Cooper's the issue. I think Cooper actually does play the right way and all of that. But too many of these guards are just taking some bullshit, including big guys too. Big guys are thirsty. And I was watching, I forget what game was last night, but someone passed, it was a Pacers game. Someone passed up, I thought, a pretty good paint shot to kick out for three. My guess is they've done the math on that team, and we're going to make X on this shot, and we're going to make X plus on the three if it's wide open for this guy. Like, that's what these teams are doing with advanced analytics. And so I'd like to see college coaches empowered more. I never normally say this, but to coach up guys. And so, because I think it's better for the player's best interest long term to be held accountable. And certainly in the NBA too, which the accountability comes and goes with playing time. Typically, if you're not doing it right, you're just not going to play you. Once you become made man, once you're made man, you're fine. But until then you can be coached up.
And development, right, David? Can you always say the NBA certainly has no monopoly on it, and we know college doesn't have a monopoly on it, but the ability to have basketball IQ so that when you get to the next level, you know how to play the right way. Okay, fine, you're going to some crap team where you're the man. Well, it doesn't matter because there is no superstar on that team. You might be the one they're grooming. But if you're a 26th or 27th pick and you're going to an already established team, and I'm thinking about the Phoenix Suns and their two rookies in Dunn and, oh God, I can't pronounce his last name, Okoro, I think. Like, those are just guys who just know how to play, and they realize I ain't doing none of this shit because we got Book, KD, and Beal. My job is to rebound, screen, hit shots when open, move. And they do it brilliantly because they know this is what I have to do to stay on the floor here. But you're right. A lot of guys just, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got it. This is where guidance and coaching comes in. And I know in my role, what I do for my business, I'm working with guys on making the right play. And that doesn't mean you can't be assertive. I want you to be assertive and sometimes even selfish, depending on who you're with on the court. But we're trying to win possessions. So we're going to try to do what's best for us, not just for me.
Yeah. And it's also Iguodala. That's who I was thinking about on Phoenix.
Iguodala, yeah.
Just super athlete, like shot blocker, like just again, but knows what he's got to do when he's on the floor with these guys. And that, right? It's like the old G.I. Joe, knowing's half the battle, right? Like knowing's almost all the battle, right? Like know what you're supposed to be doing and you'll be fine.
You're right. You're right.
All right, folks. We will see you later on in the week. Take care.